The sky over Houston was bright and silent when Dr. Alex Warren walked toward the launch pad. He had trained for years for this single mission, Project Echo, humanity's first attempt to send a person through a real, stable wormhole. Scientists had discovered the anomaly orbiting near Saturn, a swirling, circular storm of blue light that seemed to hum like a living thing. The world had been fascinated and terrified at the same time. Billions of people watched from their homes as the cameras followed Alex stepping into the shuttle, Odyssey 9. He wasn't just another astronaut. He was humanity's representative to the unknown. Calm, focused, and determined, he adjusted his helmet and spoke into the radio with a steady voice. "I'll see you on the other side." It was the kind of line that would live forever in documentaries and history books. As the shuttle detached from the station and began its approach toward the wormhole, every monitor and mission control flickered with tension. Scientists whispered numbers, tracking gravitational readings that made no sense. The wormhole wasn't just a hole in space. It was moving, expanding, almost as if reacting to the shuttle's presence. Alex reported his vitals, his voice strong and clear. "Entering field in 10 seconds. The wormhole shimmered like liquid light, folding over itself in endless motion. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, and the world held its breath. The Odyssey 9 crossed the event horizon in a blink. Cameras showed a flash of blue and white, then nothing. Every screen in NASA's control room turned black. The communication lines fell silent. There was no static, no error signal, no distress call, just emptiness. It was as if the entire universe had swallowed both the shuttle and its pilot. Engineers ran diagnostics, thinking it was a malfunction, but everything checked out. The systems had stopped because there was simply nothing left to receive. Hours turned into days. News stations around the world replayed the last few seconds of transmission over and over. The calm tone in Alex's voice, the final words he spoke before the signal vanished. Social media flooded with messages of hope and grief. People left flowers and candles outside NASA's headquarters. Scientists tried to explain the event as a breakdown in physics, but secretly, they were just as afraid as everyone else. Some said time moved differently inside wormholes, that maybe Alex was still alive somewhere, moving through centuries in moments. Others feared the worst, that space itself had erased him. But Alex Warren wasn't a man who feared the unknown. In the moments before contact was lost, as the ship's hull stretched and reality bent around him, he saw something no human had ever seen. Colors that didn't exist. Sound without vibration, shapes that twisted beyond logic. His body felt weightless, but his mind filled with a strange calm. He didn't feel pain or fear, only an overwhelming sense of understanding. It was as if the universe was whispering secrets directly into his thoughts. He tried to speak, but his voice dissolved into light. Back on Earth, NASA refused to declare him dead. The director said, "We don't know what happened. Until we do, he's still out there." His family held on to that hope, replaying his final words every night. The world slowly moved on, but the wormhole remained, glowing quietly near Saturn, larger now, pulsing with strange energy. Some believed it was reacting to Alex, that something inside it had changed after he entered. Weeks later, satellites near the wormhole recorded faint vibrations, almost like a heartbeat. They were rhythmic, human-like, and unmistakably deliberate. The scientists stared at the data, unsure what it meant. Had Alex found something, or had something found him? No one could answer. But one thing was clear: humanity had sent one man into the stars, and whatever came back from that light would never be the same. The universe had taken Alex Warren, and in return it had awakened something far greater than anyone could imagine. The mission meant to explore space had just opened the door to a mystery that would question what it truly meant to be human. The silence after Alex disappeared into the wormhole was unbearable. The mission control room that once buzzed with energy now felt like a tomb filled with blinking lights and tired faces. Days passed, then weeks, but no one went home. Coffee cups piled up, screens flickered endlessly, and every few hours someone would whisper, "Run the scan again." NASA's brightest minds refused to give up. They combed through radiation spikes, gravitational waves, and fragments of distorted static that came from near the wormhole, desperate to find even a single sign of Alex. But all they heard was emptiness, a silence so deep it almost sounded alive. By the 23rd day, most had begun to accept what they didn't want to say aloud, that Alex Warren was gone. Yet, in the darkest hour of the night shift, when only a few scientists remained awake, a soft crackle came through the main communication channel. It started as faint static, the kind that usually meant background interference. But this time it was different. There was a rhythm to it, like breathing. One of the technicians froze, eyes widening as he whispered, "Wait, that's not noise." The room went still as the signal strengthened. Then through the static came a voice. It was deep, calm, and strangely layered, as if several people were speaking at once in perfect unison. "I've seen it," the voice whispered. The words were slow and drawn out, echoing with an unnatural clarity. "Everything." For a few seconds, no one moved. The engineers exchanged terrified glances. They all knew that voice. It was Alex, but something was wrong. It didn't sound entirely human anymore. It was as if something else was speaking through him. Before anyone could respond, the transmission ended. The screens flashed red for a moment, and then silence again. The scientists replayed the message over and over. Some said it was fake, others thought it was a delayed echo from before he entered the wormhole. But the data that came with the transmission changed everything. Attached to the signal were biological readings, vitals automatically transmitted by the Odyssey 9's onboard systems. Except these readings didn't make sense. Alex's heartbeat was slower than any human's. His body temperature fluctuated between freezing and burning, and his cellular data contained patterns never seen in any known organism. One researcher whispered, "This isn't possible. This isn't human biology." The director of the project ordered every satellite within range to monitor the wormhole. Strange new energy waves were forming around it, pulsing in sync with the last signal. It was almost as if the wormhole itself was responding, alive, aware, or somehow connected to Alex. The idea terrified everyone. If he was still alive, then what had he become? And if he wasn't, then who or what had sent that message? Word of the signal leaked to the public within hours. News channels played the recording across the world. People listened to Alex's whisper, "I've seen it." Everything, and shivered. Scientists argued on television, calling it a hoax or a system glitch. But deep down, humanity knew something extraordinary had happened. Some believed he had seen the beginning of creation itself. Others feared he had met something far older, something that now knew us. NASA released a single statement. "We have received partial communication from Dr. Warren, investigation ongoing." But behind the scenes, panic grew. The signal contained traces of radiation that interfered with computers and caused minor power outages across the control room. A few of the analysts claimed they heard faint whispers when playing back the audio, words in no language they could identify. For the next several nights, many of the staff refused to go home, staring at the monitors as if Alex might speak again. But he never did. The only thing that remained was the soft pulse of energy from the wormhole, like a heartbeat echoing through the stars. And somewhere in that endless silence, the question haunted everyone who had ever looked up at the night sky. If that was Alex's voice, what had he seen? And if it wasn't, what had we just made contact with? 30 days had passed since the Odyssey 9 vanished into the wormhole. Most of the world had accepted that Dr. Alex Warren was gone forever. NASA had already begun preparing his memorial, calling him a hero who gave his life for discovery. But on that cold morning, the silence of space was broken. A radar operator noticed something strange, a faint blip appearing near Saturn's orbit right at the edge of the wormhole. At first they thought it was debris, maybe just leftover fragments of the ship. But then the reading grew stronger. The shape was unmistakable. It was the Odyssey 9. Panic and hope filled the control room all at once. After 30 long days, the shuttle had returned. Every scientist in the building rushed to their stations as they tried to re-establish contact. The wormhole shimmered with soft blue light, and then, as if pushed by an invisible hand, the battered craft emerged, spinning slowly but steady. Its outer shell was scorched, marked with strange burns that didn't match any known form of heat. The rescue team aboard the nearby recovery vessel was ordered to move immediately. They approached cautiously, hearts racing, knowing that whatever came back might not be the same as what went in. When they finally reached the Odyssey 9, everything seemed eerily quiet. The ship's emergency lights flickered, and thin layers of frost covered the windows, even though the interior temperature read normal. "Odyssey 9, do you copy?" One of the crew members called out. No response. They opened the hatch carefully, flashlights cutting through the shadows. Inside, floating weightless near the control seat, was Alex. His helmet had cracked, his suit torn in places, but he was alive. When they pulled him out, his eyes opened slowly, and for a moment, everyone froze. His eyes weren't the same. A faint golden glow shimmered within them, like reflections of a distant star. His pulse was erratic, racing 1 second, slowing the next. His skin seemed to reflect light in a strange way, not metallic, not alien, just different. When the medics tried to check his vitals, their instruments glitched, screens flickering with static. "It's beautiful," Alex murmured softly, staring past them as if seeing something no one else could. His voice was calm, peaceful, almost too peaceful for someone who had been missing for a month in a place where no human should have survived. The recovery team transferred him to a medical bay on Earth, where strict quarantine protocols were enforced. Reporters around the world flooded the news with headlines, "Astronaut returns from wormhole alive." People celebrated, calling it a miracle. But inside NASA, no one felt like celebrating. Scientists whispered about the strange readings from his body. His heartbeat didn't match normal human rhythm. His blood samples glowed faintly under ultraviolet light. Even the air around him seemed charged, making electronic devices behave unpredictably. Yet through it all, Alex remained calm, almost serene. When the doctors questioned him about what he had seen, he smiled faintly and said, "It's not something you can describe. It's not a place, it's everything." He would often pause mid-sentence, tilting his head as if listening to voices that weren't there. "They're still talking," he said once, smiling at the empty wall. "They never stop." At first, they thought he was suffering from trauma or hallucinations caused by isolation. But the more they observed, the less certain they became. His brain scans showed activity patterns far beyond normal human limits, lighting up in areas that should have been inactive. Even behind the glass walls of the quarantine chamber, Alex seemed content. He spent hours staring at the stars through the window, whispering softly under his breath, words no one could understand. Sometimes the lights in the room would flicker in rhythm with his heartbeat. The staff grew uneasy. They started noticing strange things, patterns appearing on nearby computer screens, faint hums echoing through the hallways when he spoke. One technician swore that for a moment, the lights in the entire facility dimmed, and she heard a whisper in her ear that wasn't human. Just before Alex smiled. No one could explain what had happened to him or what he had brought back. But one thing was clear. The man who had entered the wormhole had not returned alone, and though his body was still human, something vast and unseen now lived within him, something that kept whispering from beyond the stars. The days after Alex's return were filled with both excitement and fear. At first, scientists thought his survival was nothing short of a miracle, but as they ran more tests, their excitement slowly turned into unease. His body wasn't healing, it was changing. The first signs were subtle. His temperature stayed constant no matter the environment, his heartbeat shifted rhythms without reason, and his eyes seemed to shimmer faintly even in complete darkness. But soon the changes became undeniable. His DNA, the blueprint of human life, was rewriting itself at a speed scientists couldn't comprehend. Cells regenerated almost instantly, adapting as if they were learning from something, or someone, unseen. The lead geneticist whispered, "He's evolving," but into what? Machines struggled to function around him. Computers glitched, Medical scanners shut down, and lights flickered every time Alex entered the room. Even the air seemed charged with static electricity, as if space itself bent slightly when he walked by. They tried to isolate him in a specially shielded chamber, but the phenomenon only intensified. The walls vibrated faintly at night, and sometimes the glass separating him from the doctors would fog over with strange patterns, almost like writing, though no one could decipher it. Despite all this, Alex appeared calm. He never panicked, never protested. He often sat in silence, smiling faintly, eyes fixed on something beyond the room. When questioned about his condition, he didn't seem concerned. "It's not a curse," he said one day, his voice soft but steady. "It's an invitation." The scientists didn't understand. "An invitation to what?" one of them asked. He looked up, his glowing eyes reflecting the bright lab lights. "To become more than human," he answered simply. The medical team tried to monitor him constantly, but their instruments began to fail one by one. Data files corrupted, recordings erased themselves, and digital clocks ran backward whenever Alex was near. It was as if the laws of physics bent slightly in his presence. Yet he remained cooperative, almost peaceful, assuring everyone that he wasn't in pain. He told them the wormhole wasn't just a tunnel in space, it was alive. "It sees us," he whispered. "It learns. It wants to understand through me." His words sent chills through the team. Some believed him. Others thought he had lost his mind. Weeks passed and his transformation continued. His strength increased, his reaction time surpassed human limits, and his need for sleep vanished entirely. He could go days without eating or resting, yet showed no fatigue. Cameras caught moments when his outline seemed to blur, as if reality struggled to define him. When the researchers slowed down the footage, they saw faint shapes flickering behind him, like reflections of other worlds, other beings. It was as though something from beyond the wormhole still lingered around him, connected by an invisible thread. Then came the incident that changed everything. During a routine medical check, a doctor accidentally pricked his finger while taking Alex's blood. The moment the needle touched his skin, the machines around them sparked violently, and the doctor collapsed, gasping for breath. When he woke moments later, he said he had seen flashes of strange light and heard whispers in his head, voices repeating the same word: "Welcome." After that, no one dared to touch Alex again. The government soon classified his condition as anomalous and restricted access to him. Only a handful of scientists were allowed to continue studying him, all under strict supervision. Rumors began to spread within the facility. Stories of people hearing their names whispered in their dreams after working near his chamber. One night, the security cameras recorded Alex standing in the center of his room, eyes closed, surrounded by a soft blue glow. The footage cut out seconds later, and when the system rebooted, every light in the building flickered in unison. When asked what happened that night, Alex smiled and said, "They're getting closer." No one knew who they were, but everyone felt it. An invisible presence growing stronger each day, as if something beyond human understanding was slowly crossing over. The scientists finally realized the truth they had feared all along. The wormhole wasn't just a passage through space. It was a living intelligence, vast and ancient, and it had chosen Alex as its messenger, or its bridge. The man who had entered the wormhole was human, but the one who came back was becoming something else. Something that could see through space, time, and life itself. And though his heart still beat like a man's, what lived behind those glowing eyes no longer belonged entirely to Earth. The night Alex disappeared began like any other. The facility was quiet, guarded, and bathed in the dull hum of fluorescent lights. The scientists were exhausted, half afraid to sleep, half afraid to stay awake. For weeks, Alex's presence had disrupted everything. Machines shorted out, security cameras flickered, and whispers echoed through the hallways when no one was there. Some of the guards had even requested transfers, saying that being near him made them dream of strange skies and glowing symbols. Still, no one expected what was about to happen. At exactly 2:47 a.m., every monitor in the control room froze. The security feeds turned to static, and alarms failed to trigger. When the system came back online, the cameras showed Alex standing in the middle of his chamber, completely still. Then, without warning, he walked toward the reinforced glass wall, placed his hand on it, and it opened, without code, key, or command. He stepped through calmly, barefoot, wearing only the thin white clothing issued by the lab. Every guard who saw the footage later swore the lights around him dimmed, as if even electricity bowed to his presence. He didn't run or hide. He simply walked out into the night, his head tilted toward the sky as though listening to something only he could hear. By the time anyone reached the outer gates, he was already gone. The desert stretched out in all directions, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The security drones picked up his figure on thermal scanners for a few moments, moving steadily into the dunes, then vanished completely. At 3:03 a.m., a brilliant flash of light illuminated the horizon. It wasn't like lightning. It was too controlled, too perfect. A pulse of pure energy that rippled across the sand before fading into silence. After that, there was no trace of him. No footprints, no heat signature, not even a piece of fabric. It was as if he had dissolved into the air. When the team entered his room later that morning, they found only one thing. Written on the inside of the glass wall in Alex's precise handwriting were the words, "The universe isn't empty. It's waiting for us to listen." The note sent chills through everyone who saw it. His handwriting glowed faintly under ultraviolet light, as though written with a substance unknown to science. The message wasn't just poetic, it felt deliberate, like a final transmission meant for humanity. NASA immediately sealed off the facility, declaring Alex missing in action, but everyone inside knew what that really meant. He hadn't escaped. He had gone somewhere else. Days later, observatories around the world detected something strange near the same region of space where the first wormhole had appeared. A new one was forming, larger, brighter, and more stable. But this one was different. Its light pulsed in rhythm like a living heart. The same scientists who had studied Alex's altered biology realized with horror and awe that the pulse matched his final recorded heartbeat. The connection was undeniable. It was as if part of him had merged with the fabric of the universe itself. The discovery sparked global debate. Some called it proof of alien life. Others said it was the beginning of human evolution. NASA quietly renamed the phenomenon the Warren Anomaly. Governments issued statements urging calm, while religious leaders declared it a miracle or a warning. But for those who had known Alex personally, the meaning felt simpler. He had gone to meet whatever waited on the other side. In the weeks that followed, scientists observed faint transmissions coming from the new wormhole, soft hums and rhythmic pulses. Not random noise, but something structured, patterned, almost like a voice trying to form words. When played through an audio system, the frequency caused strange reactions in listeners. Some claimed they felt a sense of peace. Others said they saw flashes of light behind their eyelids, visions of distant galaxies and endless stars. One researcher whispered after hearing it, "It's him! He's still talking." The mission that had started as an exploration of the cosmos had become something far greater. A reminder that humanity's understanding of life was still painfully small. Dr. Alex Warren had gone into the wormhole as a man. But what came back was something beyond comprehension. He wasn't a survivor. He wasn't even a returnee. He was a bridge between human curiosity and the vast consciousness that existed beyond the stars. Years later, when future astronauts studied the new wormhole, they noticed something hauntingly beautiful. Every time a human heartbeat was recorded near it, the pulse of the wormhole changed slightly, as if responding. It was alive, aware, and listening. Alex's final words, "The universe isn't empty. It's waiting for us to listen," had become humanity's new motto for space exploration. No one ever found him again. But sometimes, late at night, when radio telescopes turned toward that part of space, a faint voice echoed through the static, a whisper that sounded almost human. And though distorted by light years of distance, one phrase always came through clearly, "We are not alone."